Welcome to Confessions of a Wannabe It Girl. I'm your host, Marley Freigang, and I'm here to help you filter out all the bullshit and become the next It Girl. This podcast explores the reality of what it really takes to make it out there. As it turns out, it is way less Instagrammable than I thought it was going to be. I'm still very much a work in progress, but there's simply nothing else I'd rather be doing than chasing my dreams. So let's learn from my mistakes and work together to achieve our dreams with more confidence, clarity, and direction. Let's get after it. Welcome, MadzzTazz. I had to say your Instagram handle because you just have to, but welcome to the podcast. We are so excited to have you.
I'm psyched to be here.
Well, you are a very busy woman. You are a master soul cycle instructor, a mindset coach, a podcast host of your podcast, Wicked Fearless. And we are just so thrilled to be diving into all of those things today.
Yeah, I can't wait. I'm like, what are we going to talk about? I'm so excited.
Great. So you built your brand around a few things. Soul Cycle, playing a big part in it. But I want to go back before Soul Cycle and before Wicked Fearless. What was the catalyst that got us here?
So I guess the like Judy Blume version that I like to tell, I went to school for entertainment and music business. And I went to Belmont University in Nashville, Tennessee. So that's where I studied that. And I always was hell-bent on going to LA. It was like bright lights, big city, LA, Hollywood, here I come. And so my senior semester of college, my second, spring semester, your glory, easy semester, I actually did Belmont West and went out to LA and interned with Ellen DeGeneres, which then led me into the whole world of like being out there. I'm going to work in production. I'm going to work in this. I'm going to be an EA. I had so many different jobs in Los Angeles that really led me after getting fired from, I think it was like 2 different ad agencies. And this is many years later after going through all the jobs. And I'm sure we'll talk about that. But I found myself, one of my passions was fitness. Soul Cycle was one of those rocket ships that was exploding at the time. And I was just like, I need to get on that rocket ship. And so I went through the whole process of interviewing there. I ended up becoming a studio manager there and working kind of like the other side, I guess, like one side of the desk, if you will. And my intention was always to do marketing or advertising and somehow end up back in New York. And lo and behold, that's not how the story went. It actually went, I became an instructor, which was never my intention, but was kind of birthed from a bunch of people being like, you should do this. Like, you'd be great at it. And I was like, oh, like, yeah, maybe I'll try it. And that led me to going through auditions in New York, getting placed in Boston, and kind of building my community here up until, being 9 years in with the company, master instructor, and then building all the things I built beyond the bike has led me kind of to this moment now.
We love to talk about debunking Hollywood and all the things that are like glitz and glam that we think are so sparkly. You were working these really cool jobs being an EA, and like, was that hard to leave or were you ready to leave?
So I feel like the way it worked for me is I jumped. So I was working as one place as an EA. I jumped to another place. Then they like moved me off of that desk and I was like a junior production or whatever assistant. And then I got let go there in a massive like round of layoffs there. And so I was like, oh, okay. And I had always been a very high level EA. So anytime there were any layoffs, like I was always safe. I was never like bottom of the rung, like whatever, because, I was like an entry level, marketing. I even forget. I think it was a project manager or something. Anyway, so I was always safe. And it was like the first time in my life I wasn't safe. You weren't safe. You were expendable, quite frankly. And so that is when I kind of like jumped around some different digital marketing jobs. And I was always, that same thing kept happening. Like it would come November right before like Thanksgiving. And I feel like that's always when there's this mass round of layoffs before the holidays going into the new year, like you lose different accounts, etc. And that happened like a series of 3 times. And I remember the last one, I was like crying in my car in the parking lot. And I was just like, I am so done with this place. And that's really what led me to applying and going the Soul Cycle route. Which it's just kind of crazy how it all happens.
I've heard you say this, would you call this your bathroom floor moment, or what was your bathroom floor moment?
I've had a lot of them. I had my friend Coach Star on the podcast recently, and she talks about them as catalysts for change, which is like a lot more positive of a way to talk about them. But I honestly think that one of the bathroom floor moments for me was that last round of like getting fired again and being like, oh my gosh, like I just cannot make it work here in LA. I have done everything. I have thrown the book at this place, and I have scraped and clawed and like got my food from the 99-cent store and slept on a mattress on the ground and done background work and like waited tables. I've done literally freaking everything to be here, and it's just not working, and I'm over it here. And to be honest, the first application I put in for Soul Cycle was to be a studio manager in Boston in LA. I went through the whole round of interviews. I did a shadow day in Beverly Hills. I didn't get the job. So I went back to another agency, got let go there. And I was just like, you've got it. That was when I had the like, you've got to be effing kidding me moment. And I saw a ad for a Soul Cycle studio manager in Boston. And I was like, perfect. I am going to go back East Coast. I'll be close to my family. Like, I'm done with LA. They call me. They're like, the Boston opportunity isn't there anymore, but we have an opening in LA. And I literally went on that interview. And I remember specifically being like, are you guys going to put me through the ring again for no damn reason? Or do you want to hire me or not? Because I've went on 5 other interviews, did a shadow day. You either want me or you don't. Like, I don't get it at this point. So anyway, I did end up getting hired by Soul Cycle, but all this to say, like, it's crazy that I was like, I'm done with this place. I'm going to leave. And then I found this whole new place, this whole new people, this whole new love in this place that quite literally like saved my life in a lot of different ways. Without going into it knowing that that would happen, that I would actually land me back, keep me in LA instead of having me leave LA.
Right. I think there's such a nugget in that. Whenever you're ready to throw in the towel, you never know when you're like 3 feet away from gold or gonna get it.
Oh my gosh.
They'll just hand you a side card of, oh, you wanted to leave, but you can't because, or, whatnot, all the things. And then you were placed at the West Hollywood Soul Cycle.
Yeah. So I was an assistant studio manager at the West Hollywood studio. And then I got to open our West Coast headquarters at the time, which was Culver City. So I worked there, and I worked there up until I auditioned for Soul Cycle to be an instructor when we had our auditions. So when that happened, I just kind of was like, all right, like we'll see what happens. But I also am a manager here. So it wasn't like do or die for me. It was just kind of like, oh, let's see what happens.
Mm-hmm. Soul Cycle is like a very well-known brand. And we have we've seen Beyonce go and whatnot. Like, did any of that pressure ever make you scared or nervous? And like, how did you deal with that as a instructor and then, later a speaker and a coach?
I never really felt that because when I was a writer and when I was working at the studios, of course, working in West Hollywood, it's insane. You see so many celebrities, so many different people come in. And you just have to, I had worked in that entertainment before. So it was just like, you see people and you just act normal. Like it is what it is. Like, of course, there's some people that you get starstruck by, or you're like, wow, they're so stunning in person. It's disgusting. Like, I will never forget, like Charlize Theron came into Soul Cycle West Hollywood in like a black cap, and she was just so stunning. Like you noticed her, like, even though she was dressed down like in a black cap, you were like, that human being is beautiful. So there was like moments like that always, but I was never really scared or intimidated in terms of being like an instructor or like that process. I think it was all like really just fun and exciting at the time. And it was more that energy versus nervous energy.
Have you always been like this confident?
I feel like I definitely I think there were periods of my time in my life where I thought I was confident, but I wasn't. I was more insecure underneath and maybe had a little bit of like bravado or like that faking it till you make it type of confidence. Whereas I think now I've just gotten to a place, I'm 34. So I'm just kind of like, I am very authentic with my stories. There's not really a lot I won't talk about, or there's no real part of me that I feel like I'm shameful about or guilty about. I kind of lay it all out there. I always like to say, like, there's really no skeletons in my closet someone can throw at me and be like, well, you did this, you were that kind of person. And I'm like, yeah, I know, I was like a horrible person. I was like a total piece of shit then. And like, I've really worked on myself and I've worked really hard to get to where I am. So I think that that really is what contributes to maybe the confidence that you see now versus maybe when it was a little more kind of like, I don't know if it was necessarily fake or if it was just like, I guess not authentic, not real ish.
Yeah, I think we can find like confidence in pretend sometimes. I'm definitely in a fake it till you make it stage of my life. And it will help you, but like you're still gripping something in your core that you know is like this is not real and makes you nervous. So yeah, maybe it's a change of groundedness with it.
Yeah, I think that's what it is. Or just
Yeah.
like a real, like true ownership. Like maybe like that kind of confidence is like you're renting it. Like it's like rent the runway
Mm.
confidence. But when you are like own it.
I love
And
that metaphor.
it.
That really
I've
no,
never said that. We made that up on this.
that's a really
I'm gonna coin that one.
coin that one. Do you think you own the term now of being wicked fearless?
Like own it in my life. I think
Yes.
that, yeah, I mean, here's the thing about fearlessness. And I heard this at a talk a while back when I went to Powerhouse Women, which is like this awesome event in Arizona. It's a women's business conference. And this woman by the name of Rachel Luna spoke. And it was one of the most profound things I've ever heard about confidence ever, and like being fearless ever. It's like she said, it's not fearless, it's fear with. And I think that that is really what being fearless is it's getting really well acquainted with the feeling of bringing fear with you, or being able to go toe to toe with your fear and stand up to it. So it's not the absence of fear, it's actually the presence of it and the ever presence of it. And you're just willing and able to be bold and brave and just take those big leaps or stand up to that thing or do that thing. And it's like you're always in this ballet dance with fear. It's always kind of part of the process, but it's like something you're not afraid of because you just know how to dance with it.
Mm. I love that. You talk about finding confidence through habits. Can you tell us some of the steps and like starting habits to get going on that journey?
Yeah. So lately, I feel like when I think of the things that make me feel confident, it's really more, I mean, you can back that up to kind of, I've been alluding it to putting on my spiritual armor for the day. So I have
Mm.
a lot of different practices and rituals in my morning routine and my nighttime routine that like just make me feel more grounded and a better person. So they help me to show up all around to just be better. For me, that looks like I have a very sacred gratitude practice every morning, to the point where I created my own gratitude journal because the one that I had been using for literally years was going to go out of print. And I had a meltdown, like an absolute meltdown. I was like, oh my God, my life is over. Like, what am I going to do? And so I created my own. And it is the staple for my morning. Like, I get up, I make my coffee, I make my breakfast, I sit down, I do my gratitude practice. I do like I usually do like a book pull or maybe a card pull or prayer or something like that. And it just sets the tone for my day. And I call it like your spiritual armor for the day, because then when you're kind of like zipped up, and you kind of like I was just not recently on a podcast and somebody was like, oh yeah, it's like putting spiritual armor. Like I picture you putting like shin guards and stuff on, because like when you go out, someone's gonna kick you in the shin or like try to knock you in the head, and you're like, you have your armor on. So it's like things don't affect you as much as they would had you not done that. And that's what works for me. And helps me stay grounded throughout the day and not so easily moved or swayed off course. And I think then that's a place where you can start to build confidence upon, because you feel so good in your body, and you feel grounded in what you're doing. And I think that's really how you can like get closer to feeling more confident in all aspects of your life.
How did you start to understand what you needed to do for you? Because I hear people say all the time, like, I want a morning practice or, but they don't know how to find it for themselves. Do you have any keys there?
Yeah, I think so. I think a lot of different things work differently for other people, and it's not a one size fits all, which is so annoying, right? I remember I struggled so much with acne during this one point in my life. I had perfect skin my whole life growing up, everything. And then I hit this 20 something era where my face literally was horrible.
Oh
Looks
my
like a
God.
Proactive
I
commercial,
think
like
we had the same thing.
crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it would always piss me off when I was like trying to find answers and like they'd be like, well, everybody's body is so different. It's not one size fits all. And I'd be like, oh my God, I'm going to like lose my mind here. But all this to say, it really is like what works for me might not work for someone else. So you have to stay really curious about what feels good for you. So if, you know, doing a really elaborate practice that's 10 20 minutes long and doing all these things and this face and all these different things in the morning doesn't work for you and you have to get ready quicker, I'd say like find a shorter practice or find something that's not as in depth. But I do think like it does take a little bit of noodling in the sense of people are like, oh, I really want to have a morning practice, but I'm just like so tired. I just can't get up like earlier, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, well, then go to bed 30 minutes earlier. Like if you can't get up 10 minutes extra early in the morning to try to do this and like try to see what it feels like for a few weeks and see if the implementation works, then you're never going to know. So like there is going to be a period where it doesn't feel like really juicy and great because you're getting used to it. So it's like you have to stay open and curious to like what it might feel like and give yourself a little bit of time to actually like assess the way it feels in your body before just writing something off because it doesn't feel good the first week you tried it. I will never, ever, ever forget one of the jobs I did have in LA. I worked down in like on Jefferson Boulevard, like towards, it was like an agency. I want to say it was like very close to Manhattan Beach. Like it was pretty, or yeah, it was like pretty far down there. It was like past Marina Del Rey. It was far, right? Jefferson Boulevard is far down there.
That's far.
So if my memory serves, so, and I live in West Hollywood. So, and I had to be in at like 8. So what I would do is I would get up at like 4 or 5. I would drive to South Bay Equinox, work out, shower there, then go to work. But it was like, it didn't feel good getting up at 4:30 in the morning to go work out, to make sure that I missed that traffic in the commute and be at work at time. It sucked. And it sucked for like probably several weeks before my body got used to it, before I acclimated to my sleep time, before I figured out, okay, like now you can't go to bed at 10. You got to be in bed at 9:30, winding down. You can't be like scrolling on your phone and doing all this stuff. So the implementation of it does take a little bit to form the habit, I think. And I think so many people just kind of like are like, screw it. It's like, doesn't feel good after whatever. It's going to take an adjustment period. So that's
I totally agree with that because I totally agree with that because I think we do have this idea that habits and, taking care of ourselves should be an instant fix and, instant gratification if we do it so quickly. But really, like what a habit is something you can maintain for a long time that we can see some type of positive effect. So if you can't commit to it for a long time, how will you ever see the commitment, the growth, and then the benefit of what you're gaining from doing the habit?
Totally.
Something that does happen, I feel like, is we have these days where maybe like our spiritual armor, has a crack and someone says something or we make a mistake. How do you handle those and kind of not carry the baggage of the criticism or mistake with you? Because that to me personally has been the biggest thing in my confidence is, something happened bad, we'll use it. I used to be a dancer. I went to a dance audition and I completely forgot the choreography. I was so embarrassed. I was in front of this entire room of gorgeous women that were dancing. And then, I'd go back into the dance room and I'd be like, oh my God, like what if that happens again? And then it would, because I had set myself up with that. How do we not carry that baggage?
Oh, that's so I can so relate to that because I can't tell you how many times. My first time I auditioned for Patriots cheerleading, I did that.
Oh
I
my God,
like
this was for the
totally,
Rams cheerleading.
yeah, I like literally, so I'm like the best at learning choreography. You could do it one time in front of me and I could do it. But if you have me waiting like in a corral for 3 hours, I will forget everything. Absolutely forget everything, blackout. So I feel like, it's really, I think you have to just forgive yourself for having the thoughts and forgive yourself for feeling the feelings. I always say, like, throw your pity party, let it happen, but like, don't stay there. It's like you can get down, but don't stay down. And I think that's really key. And then just remembering your worth. Like in those moments, it's challenging because you're like, gosh, I did, I literally, prepared like crazy. I knew the choreography, I knew this, I knew that. And then I just blanked. Um, and that can just be challenging. It's like, okay, well, what can I do so that I don't blank next time? For me, that looked like I'm never going to not blank. So maybe this isn't what's going to happen for me. And I went through that with the second time I auditioned for Patriots Cheerleading. Like it didn't happen. And I was like, got in the best shape. I had the best time. I had the best outfit. I felt like I could not have put a better foot forward. And I think I just had to come to terms with the fact that like I had a different path. Like there was a different power, a higher power at play. And this wasn't the path for me for whatever reason right now. And even though it sucked and I cried and I was upset and I let myself go through the emotion of it, I knew that there was going to be something profound on the other side, even though I couldn't feel it in that moment. So on those days where you're getting things don't go your way or something like tarnishes your armor or just like sets you off from your center. For me, I mean, I'm like a huge prayer person. Like I'm pretty spiritual, pretty religious, I guess. I don't know. All the words are interchangeable, but that really like belief in a higher power is always what's helped me to kind of reground and be like, I know there's a bigger power at play. And just kind of surrender to, I don't have all the answers. I'm not perfect. I'm never going to be. And I just hope that what's for me will not pass me and it will come my way. And I'm just going to keep working hard and it'll sort itself out.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, I think it's just a, grateful reminder for whoever, or whatever you turn over to just like release and like let it go and move on and know that other things will be coming your way too. We're talking a lot about cracks in the armor. I love cracks in the armor.
We're on this.
I love cracks in the armor because I think we all can relate to it. We've all had the bad days. And I call it the compare and despair Instagram scroll.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Because we just sit there and see somebody's highlight reel and compare our either on-screen life or off-screen life to that. Let's talk about how comparison can affect our self-worth and what have you done to, in your speaking and, being up in front of the class to like bestow upon the people listening to you that, we don't need to get so lost in compare and despair.
Yeah. So we live in a world where we are constantly inundated by social media. I'm actually finding this extremely challenging right now also because it's so constant. It's so in your face. It's like, I do 7 figures this and I do this and I do that. And so how the heck do you not compare your life to everybody else's? Like we used to live in a world where there was literally one newscast broadcast at 5 p.m. for the news. Maybe there was one in the morning. There wasn't thousands of channels and millions of people on social media and hundreds and thousands and millions of videos of all different kinds of things. Like our brain has not even caught up to what we are literally taking in. It's like on overdrive and override constantly. And if you are an achiever of anything or wanting to better yourself or you own a business or literally anything in your life, you're always going to find ways to compare yourself to other people. And what I try to remember is when I'm like super triggered by something I'm seeing on social media that's making me feel anything lesser than like anything lesser than period, full stop. It's usually because this person has something that I want. I'd say that's like most of the time. It's like they haven't achieved something I want or something I want to go after. And that just serves as proof to me that it's possible. And
Mm.
I just know I have to like do a little work to like reinstall. Okay, like that's what I want. Clearly, this is a trigger for like, okay, like this person's speaking on stage or this person's doing this thing. Why am I feeling this way? Okay. And what can I do about it? So, what can I do about it? Should I pitch myself to X, Y, and Z? Should I do whatever? It's like, I try to look at it as more almost like cause and effect, or like, how do I kind of retool this problem or do a reverse roadmap to the way I'm feeling right now? And that doesn't always happen. Like sometimes I'm just like, what the fuck? I can't believe this girl like booked this thing. How is she doing this? How is she doing that? And then sometimes it's like debunked. So I'll see all these people talking on stages or doing these things. And then I have an opportunity presented to me where I like get on a call and they're like, oh, yeah, it's actually 10 grand to speak on the stage. And I'm like, oh, so people are just paying money to do this. Got it. So it really has nothing to do with my self-worth, with my expertise, with literally anything about me. I just am not willing to pay 10 grand to go speak on that stage. So you have these moments where, and I've had a couple of these like expectation hangover type moments where you're so excited about something, you feel like you finally made it or whatever, and the moment is falls so flat of what you built it up to be. So it can really be like there's two sides to that coin in a lot of different ways. I don't know. It's so tricky because I've been talking to so many people about comparison lately. And I just think like social media has just gotten so out of control. It's so wild. I have found myself like, I don't really like doom scroll. My scrolling is more like, okay, like what's the viral sound right now? Or how do I like crack this code? Or like what's like, for me, it's usually trying to find viral sounds to try to then create a reel or something for me to like expand my business or do this or riding the bike or whatever. But there's so much time spent researching and you see so much stuff. And I think really what it comes down to is it's like there's just so much noise. Like there is just so much noise that it's so easy to just get like lost and overwhelmed and like what is actually going on here.
I think that's so true. I remember when I was in college, like I, took like a media class and they talked about, and this was years ago at this point. They were talking about how many just advertisements you consume in a day, consciously, subconsciously around you. And it's like you were exposed to like over 1 million pieces of advertisement. And now I can only imagine that's doubled or tripled. And, you have to take the time to set yourself up to have the armor to not always absorb it all. And I don't, it's not a perfect science. Sometimes I do think my jealousy or compare and despair scroll does motivate me to look and see what I'm not currently doing for my life that maybe I should be doing. But then there is a little bit of, I am doing all the things and maybe this person is too, and they've just gotten a little further than I'm right now, and just releasing it and just being like, well, I'm going to get there too, turning it over to our, higher power of it's going to come.
Yeah.
It's always a good check-in moment. It's very humbling for realization of where you are with your work too.
Yeah, no, that's really true. But I also think it's hard, right? Like hard, challenging, interchangeable word, whatever you want to call it, but it can be really hard and it can be disheartening when that type of stuff happens, or you're like, oh, or you find out like little pieces of knowledge where like you were beating yourself up about something and you're like, oh my gosh, like that person's parents work for this company, or like I had no idea. Like, and although that's not to say like things are not deserving to other people, it's just like, wow, like what would my life look like if my parents worked for so and so company? And like, so there's just so much that you don't necessarily know. There's so like, and like I even mentioned, like with the like paying to get on stages or paying to get on podcasts or like all just the craziness going on. There's a lot of stuff we don't see. And it's like when we do sometimes see it, it's like kind of like Wizard of Oz pulling the curtain to the side and like the man behind the curtain. It all can look a lot differently when we start to peel the curtains back or the layers back. And you're like, wow, okay.
Yeah.
Not what I thought.
And it starts with Hollywood. We see content on we see a TV show, they think it's all glamorous. It's like, no, that one single episode took 2 weeks to film. It's 30 minutes long and multiple sets and blah, 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 blah. And it's the same with some Instagram posts or jobs that people get is like, we don't see the steps. And I think that's just like a continually great thing to point out about glamorized life is we don't see all the steps in between.
Yeah, well, I think that's it too. Like when we talk about like the highlight reel and all that stuff, it's like a lot of people are showing their deepest, darkest, whatever moments. I personally feel like I might overshare with my Instagram because I have this theory of like the Walking Dead truck. Like, and I'll try to explain this. Like, I only want diehards in my like close inner circle. Like, you have to be on the entire journey with me. Like, I don't just want the type of friends or the type of community that are there for you when you get the trophy or you achieve the thing or it's all hunky dory. Like, you want ride or die people around you in your community always. And I also think that showcasing like that everything's not great or it's hard or I'm feeling this way too, you create this sense of camaraderie and you level with people that this isn't what it always looks like. So that is really helpful in a world that's like very glossed over and filtered, I think.
Yeah. Didn't you just post this? You just got married and you posted on your story a photo about how people reacted to that.
Yeah. So actually I had three screenshots of like my back office and Instagram or whatever. Like you can look at your insights. And the three times I lost the most followers, I think ever, were the three posts I did around my wedding. Like I did they were like three different carousels of pictures, either from my wedding, from like our trip on our like mini moon or whatever. And then there was like another one of like an all encompassing, we got like the professional wedding pictures back or whatever. So it was just really funny because I know that like engagements and babies and marriage and these things really trigger people. And I don't know. It was just, I don't know. Maybe it was a bunch of dudes that were like, oh, she's like not off the market now, whatever. Like, I have no idea. Like, I don't know why.
It's just
I don't
so
know why
interesting. It causes the most likes, but then can like, lose followers over it. But like, we can't live our lives for followers or likes or views. And it's like, post what you're going to post. And, and even though followers and likes is something we all relate to because of social media, I think it can be a metaphor for how you act in your life. If you're going to do this and you're going to lose these people because you don't have the same boundaries anymore, so be it.
Yeah. So I think that I kind of think that goes back to like knowing who your people are, the saying that's like, love your people, love them hard. I think not everybody's going to be for you. I think not everybody wants to see you win, unfortunately. And I think there's a lot of different times in your life where you go through like a term I coined is called the shedding friendships, shedding relationships, shedding people that just aren't serving where you are anymore or you're not on the same level with. And I think this happens a lot of times like post college when people are still going out and drinking and partying, and then you have the friends that want to get up and work out and want to do different things. And so there's these different times in your life where you go through these sheddings of you are wanting more things or other things and you're just don't have the same similarities or things are just not you're growing and changing. And I think certain people serve you or you serve them for certain chapters in life. But as we grow and change, not everybody can come with you on the journey, honestly.
And I think that's okay because we're chasing big dreams and we're chasing big goals. And if not everybody's down for the full ride, like you said, you might overshare or whatnot, then like, yeah, don't be there.
Yeah.
I want to talk a little bit about, chasing dreams and going after some big goals. We sometimes know the step by step, and sometimes we know step 3 and 4, but we don't. There's like a kind of a lost puppy energy sometimes in between. How do you navigate those times that goal steps aren't so clear?
I think for me, it's like staying in your routines and your processes and kind of chipping away at it. I think having great mentorship and people who have gone before you is really helpful. So someone that you can model your journey after. And I'm not, and like totally different than comparison or whatever. It's like actually people in your field that know what they're doing, know what they're talking about, coaches, mentors, like interchangeable word, whatever, having a really great support group around you that can kind of give you that, kick in the butt on the days you just feel like crap or you're like dogging yourself. But I think the people you surround yourself with are so key there. Having some sort of mentorship, and then also trusting the process that you are putting in the work and that there will be that breakthrough. If you stay true to the course and the path, and asking for help is huge. But I think that's also where that like mentorship and different friendships and different communities and circles you involve yourself with is super helpful.
Do you think, like, when you have a new goal for you, do you have like an action steps you could share with the listeners? You kind of do.
Mm. So one of my goals right now is to keynote speak on more stages. So the action step there is, okay, I need to pitch myself, or I need to, okay, what's step one? All right, say I want to work at, like, one thing I really want to pitch is create and cultivate. That's like a huge main stage keynote I would like die to do. So what does that look like? Doing research on who has spoken there, doing research on what events they have coming up, who is their point person, how do I pitch, what do I want to pitch, knowing the type of event that I'm going for. Like they've done a lot of tech events or whatever events. I'm not really someone that's going to talk about tech or like, so knowing who you're pitching, what you want. I think doing like a lot of research that way, and then just taking action. Like, are you sending the pitches? Did you craft like a good message? Do you have, um, did you have electronic press kit? Did you have, so that's what it could look like for me. But like any goal is like you chip away at it. If it's, I want to run a half marathon, you don't go out and run 10 miles today, you run 2, and then maybe you run 3, and then maybe you run 6. And like you figure it out as you go along with what you're capable of. But I think it's always like starting small, but just starting, because I think that a lot of people sit in the analysis paralysis of like, okay, I have this goal, but I don't really know how to reverse engineer it, which is actually like why I started Wicked Fearless and my coaching program in general. Cause I feel like people were getting tripped up in these places just because they didn't have the tools to like figure out, okay, well, how do I reverse engineer this? How do I, build out this goal or dream or wish that I want to chase? And like, how do I get out of this either negative thought pattern that's holding me back, or this cycle of where I get really excited, I get really inspired, and then like I don't take action, or I just get overwhelmed, or whatever it is. So that's kind of,
You've done a lot, and you've had a lot of range of jobs too. And I think you've had a huge life lesson learning. If there is like one thing you could debunk about, where you were and to now where you are and how you see the world, and that has helped you become, wicked fearless, what would you say that thing was?
Debunk. I just feel like there's like it's a lot of bullshit. Like a lot of it is fake. Like the things you think are cool, the people you thought were like the coolest people in the world that you wanted to like be cool in front of, that you thought mattered, like don't matter in life. Like I can't tell you how many times I've like been like, oh my gosh, I remember like that guy that worked at that club, or like that group of girls or whatever. And I'm like, literally like half of them are living in the Midwest. And like, this is not to like diss whatever, but these are people that I put on such a pedestal. I wanted to be like, oh my God, I wanted to be like in their in crowd or whatever. And I'm like, this, like, so and so lives wherever, has like kids, like it's like doesn't even live LA, doesn't even touch LA, doesn't even touch the entertainment industry. And I'm like, I wanted to be that person. And like, why did I want to be that person? That's so ridiculous. I think that I think like don't put people on pedestals, or like there's just a lot of like BS out there. And when we do that, when we put people on these like pedestals and we think there's something bigger than they are and that we're so much lesser than, it's the most ridiculous thing in the world. And I think as you live life and you're on this planet more, you have more of these like, damn, oh my gosh, moments where like you see things, or you see people further down the road and you're just like, I can't believe I thought that way, or I can't believe I like didn't think I was good enough, or I didn't think I was worthy enough, or I didn't think I was cool enough, or I didn't think I was whatever enough because yeah, you were growing and figuring it out. Maybe you were a hot mess at the time. I know I certainly was, and I was not in of sound mind, and I wasn't doing things that were healthy for me. And like it took me banging my head around and doing a lot of things, but it all got me to where I am now. And I think that is really what I would debunk is like, you are it. You are a once in a lifetime mega event in the universe. So act like it.
And that is literally why I say you should be your own it girl, because comparing yourself to whatever you think is the it girl will not get you so far.
Yeah, it definitely won't.
Madz, thank you so much for taking the time to be on the podcast. Can you tell everybody where they can find you as a coach, a speaker, and even where you teach soul cycling?
All the things. So I am located in Boston. So if you're ever in Boston, you want to come take Soul Cycle, that's where you can find me on a bike. But beyond the bike, I usually say like the best place to get in contact with me is Instagram. So it's at MadzzTazz, at MadzzTazz. So I always say, if you listen to this podcast and there was a golden nugget or something, tag myself and Marley in the post so we can like, just know that it's resonating and landing for somebody out there. And that's really where all my programs and my journal and all the things that I do are located. So that's really where it goes down. Obviously, I have a website and all that stuff, but anytime I do launches or announcing or really anything is going to come through Instagram. Obviously, I have an email list and all that like super like hardcore stuff, but I think the most fun stuff is probably on Instagram.
Well, thank you so much again for taking the time.
Of course. Thank you so much. It's so fun.
Guys, thank you so much for listening to the podcast, and a huge thank you to Madz for coming on the show. Don't forget to check out Wicked Fearless, her podcast, and let me know your favorite part of this show on Madz Instagram Reels on my Instagram. You know the drill. We'll see you next Tuesday.